Thank you for joining me on another episode of She Leads Now podcast, where we help career and entrepreneurial women gain the tools to develop a success mindset, create winning strategies, build collaborative relationships, and take bold action towards creating impact and fulfillment in their lives and careers. I'm your host, Sabine Gideon, and I'm on a mission to awaken and activate women and emerging leaders so they can tap into their innate leadership ability, elevate their influence, and create the impact they were destined to make. If you're ready to uplevel your confidence, courage, and influence, you've come to the right place. Join me weekly for insights, strategies, and resources to help you grow, develop, and embody the leader you were meant to be, so that you can make the impact you know you are called to make and establish the legacy you've always dreamed. The world eagerly awaits the emergence of your brilliance, impact, and influence. So with that, let's dive into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of She Leads Now. Joining me today is Dr. Marielle Barrow. Dr. Barrow is a Fulbright scholar, social entrepreneur, arts management consultant, and visual artist. Her passion and vocation are to realize real social transformation through art-based socioeconomic interventions within high-risk communities. She has worked across the Caribbean, in the U.S. and Africa, in cultural programming and as a consultant in the creative industries for the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, CARICOM, and Broward County, Florida. So excited to have you on the show today, Marielle.
Same here. Thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast.
Absolutely. Okay, so you have accomplished a lot and are really changed the landscape for so many. I'd love to hear, though, prior to getting to the space, what was that journey like to this space that you're in right now?
I'm at heart an artist, a painter, a dancer. The arts are my kind of core. And so really the work that I've done is all driven by my own passion and personal engagement and commitment to the arts. It's literally something that I need to find my balance and to center myself and ground myself. I really believe that there are multiple intelligences in our space, and oftentimes we privilege mathematical or linguistic intelligence over other kinds of intelligences, kinesthetic intelligence. And so I felt as though coming from the Caribbean, where there were limited opportunities to develop yourself as a professional, develop the arts as a career, that I needed to work at that so that the next generation wouldn't be in the same position that I found myself. So really that was at the core of, or is at the core of why I do the work that I do.
So it sounds like naturally you were creative, but what was that pivotal moment for you to say, I want to follow this and pursue this as a career?
So I went on to pursue tertiary education in an area that my parents thought would be a feasible investment, and that was hospitality management. I spent 4 years doing a degree, which it was meaningful, it was promising, there was potential, but that wasn't me. It wasn't what I wanted to do. And so I came back, I returned to my country, and I started working at a hotel, a large hotel and conference center as a management trainee. It was a coveted position and all of that good stuff. And I was giving 12 to 14 hours a day. And I remember doing my evaluation, and my supervisor or my manager was like, oh, excellent. When he got to like something like punctuality and attendance, meaning like the number of hours you put in, he was like, that's average. And I was like, 12 to 14 hours a day is average in this industry? I was like, nuh-uh. I don't love this enough to put in 12 to 14 hours a day to then get average. I was like, no way, something is wrong here. And so that is really the moment in which I said to my parents and to myself, I did what y'all asked me to do. I got a degree in something that could earn me money. And now I'm going to do me. That was it. And that same manager, God bless his soul, hosted an exhibition for me at that same hotel. So it wasn't that, oh, I wasn't doing good at this career or anything like that. It really just was, I have given myself a foundation. This is not what I want to do. And I'm going to take that plunge, you know?
Wow, what an amazing journey. And it's so funny. The fact that 12 to 14 hours was standard. And here you probably thought like, I'm going above and beyond. I'm killing it. Like, this is it. Just to learn that actually, no, that's a requirement. But I actually admire you for, giving yourself the space to do that for 4 years, to really uncover, is this what I want to do? As a fellow Caribbean, I know the pressures of our parents, right? And in the Haitian community, it's a lawyer, a doctor, or a nurse, right? Those are the only three professions that exist. And if you're not doing one of those, then you've wasted your life. And so I know that there's a lot of pressure just culturally to going down the path that perhaps our parents want us to go. And kudos to you for trying it, testing it out, recognizing that it wasn't for you, and then having the courage to step away and seek something that was more true to who you are.
Yeah, and I got mixed responses from that. So that was really an interesting journey, because I remember meeting up with someone, he was a pilot, and he asked me really curiously, so aren't your parents disappointed in you for making this switch? And I was so stunned. But that's just a side, that's just a by the way.
Yeah.
So
So in making this transition, right, and tapping into your own passion, your own creativity, and what I like to call your own unique brilliance, right? You did it for yourself. You started to build a career out of it. And then that wasn't enough. You said, all right, I want to help others. And Caribbean InTransit is the organization that you founded. So tell us a little bit about what that organization is and how you're making way for the next generation.
Well, Caribbean InTransit is actually my third company that does this. I started off with Marielle Studios, which was like a sole trader. And with that, I helped 10 young artists produce and position their work in the public space, and they earned a lot of money. And then I started Caribbean Arts Village, which is a limited liability company. And then when I came to the US to pursue further studies, I then started Caribbean InTransit. So it was this space, this time, this is what I was doing. And Caribbean InTransit really creates a range of opportunities for a range of different levels of practitioners. So we're an arts education nonprofit, and we address our work to at-risk communities through a program called This Is Me. And This Is Me provides training in arts entrepreneurship in various subsectors. So we've done visual art and fashion. And those are the two that we've focused on so far. And then we have an academic journal, which is a peer-reviewed, open access, multilingual journal. And that is meant to create a space for young, emerging, as well as established academics who are writing on the Caribbean, or writing on the Caribbean arts more specifically, to publish their work through that peer-reviewed, rigorous academic process, which is really necessary for you to advance in academia. We use that as an opportunity as well to do a certain amount of mentorship, so to speak. So it is really a process of growth for persons as well. And so that's really critical, in addition to, of course, making a document and a record of the work that is happening in the Caribbean space and the writing that is occurring as well. That's actually was the core of Caribbean InTransit when it started. And then we have a branch called In Situ, which facilitates research and collaboration with, collectives of artists. And we've done 2 editions of that where we worked with 5 different artists from all over the world. It was really remarkable. And we went to Haiti for the Haiti Ghetto Biennial and did a project there, supporting and working with Haitian artists. So I did tell you that Haiti was very close to my heart.
Shout out.
Yeah. And then we did one in Tanzania, in Zanzibar, Tanzania, where we worked with female and male artists. But I think the impact on the female artists was really something that touched me personally. They wrote a manifesto, the woman who literally started the engagement not saying anything in the presence of their male counterparts were literally belting out a manifesto on a stage at the end of it. And that for me remains so powerful a memory that it just was one of the climaxes of this experience. So it really is a creative ecosystem for and by creatives. Oftentimes, the creative has to figure that path out all on his own or on her own. And that is taxing, that is emotionally draining. And sometimes it's just virtually impossible because you have so many other forces coming at you through life. And you not only have to practice and excel at your craft, but then you have to figure out the business of it all and the condition in which you're working, the situation, the broader context. So this app really creates that broader context for you and gives you a smaller space to navigate. And it's all there in one app. So we say it's all arts, all day, every day. And that's how I like it.
Oh my goodness. So many things you said there. One of the things that I wanted to point out that I picked up on was the fact that in the Caribbean, particularly, while there are a lot of creatives and it's not necessarily a quote unquote lucrative profession to go into, right? To go into artistry. And so being able to even create a career out of it and one that allows you to continue to grow, like that's a feat in itself. Creating space for these individuals to move away from selling their materials like on the streets or in smaller events to really expanding the stage and the platform that they have access to. That's amazing all in itself. Thank you so much for sharing that. What I'm also hearing too is that not only are you creating this platform where they get to share their gift, their talent, they get to monetize it, but you're also creating the space where they now get to build businesses around it. Because it's one thing to have a side hustle. It's another to really learn the in and outs of business to create that around that. So tell us a little bit about that aspect.
The business structure is really obviously a critical aspect of becoming a full-time, making the arts a career. And that is not necessarily a linear or straightforward route. And especially, I don't want to say we're not quite following the pandemic, but we're on the other side, hopefully, of the pandemic. It adds another layer of complication. In addition to that, every time you launch a new product or engage in another kind of side of your business, it's a whole additional process that you have to put into place. And creative entrepreneurs, like any other industry, needs a community to do that. They need coaches, they need mentors, they need a structure. And if they weren't privileged enough to have been able to study entrepreneurship, which, many of them don't, so they just have to figure it out by themselves, they are just always navigating on their own and doing this guessing game. So one of the things that we also have embarked on and that's offered through the app is coaching for entrepreneurs, specifically for creative entrepreneurs. Now, creative entrepreneurs you can think about that broadly because every entrepreneur in a sense has a creative investment or a creative edge. But one of the coaching programs that we offer is called Synapse Coaching, and I lead that engagement. And that coaching program executes what we call the Creative Success Blueprint, which provides a range of, let me call them experiences and motivational spaces and what I call the She Accelerate Tribe to create community, to allow the creative entrepreneur to do a creative version of project management, to navigate their moods and to leverage their strengths so that they can really execute the best product and make it something that's inimitable. So that process is like a 5-module program. My students are reporting that in each session, they overcome a challenge. In each session, they overcome a mindset, a stumbling block that was really standing in their way. And that's exciting. It's fulfilling for me because I really enjoy teaching. I've always enjoyed teaching. I've taught for many years. So that for me is just hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah, you are definitely operating in your zone of genius for sure. That is awesome. And I love the way that you laid out the program because that's very similar to the layout, even in leadership coaching or any other types of coaching. It starts with you. It starts with the awareness of who you are. What are those strengths? What are those opportunities? How do you staff to the opportunities or the weaknesses, if you will, if you can't up level from a skills perspective? What I love about it is the community aspect. And you're absolutely right. Whether you're a creative entrepreneur or a different type of entrepreneur, having that community is huge to your success, to your motivation, to you feeling like you have some level of support. And you actually said the magic word without prompting, which was networking, and the importance of building a network, regardless of what sphere you're in. And it almost sounds too, because of the way that your organization has spanned globally, it creates opportunities for people in one part of the world to network or to gain access to individuals in other parts of the world. Is that correct?
Absolutely. How we have structured our organization is that we have team members in different parts of the world and they have their own networks. And so every time we decide, hey, you know what, we're going to go to this conference or we're going to do this project in this country, we have a team member there who then activates their own network in service of the work that we are all doing together. And so that has been amazing and phenomenal. With the exception of specific projects we've gotten funding for, it's a volunteer organization, it's a volunteer engagement. But the richness that persons have derived and the steps that they and the networks that they have been able to create through the organization is what keeps them there and together. And I think for many Caribbeans, there's a desire to give back. And so our organization really serves to allow you to give back and to connect. We have not only Caribbean members in the Caribbean, we have Caribbean members in the US, and we have non-Caribbean members who just work on the Caribbean or who are just interested in the topic. And so we have persons from the UK, we have one based in Italy right now, we have one in Virginia. That's how we do it. So it really is exciting in that regard. It really allows us to spread our wings, to share and invest in spaces that mean a lot to us. You know?
Yeah. That sounds like an amazing business model to have created and curated, and it's actually working well and supporting, right? There are challenges with having a business model like that when you have paid employees. I'm curious, how do you, as the leader, maintain engagement with such a broad network and a volunteer group of team members?
That's a great question. I have a modus operandi that whoever shows up, we work with you. And so persons may not be able to be continuously involved, but they continue to be involved. At one juncture, we had a board member who joined us. She wasn't a long-standing board member, but for the time that she was engaged, her impact was so powerful. And so she decided when she joined our team that she wanted us to host a number of panels at the Caribbean Studies Conference. And that year, the Caribbean Studies Conference was in, guess where? New Orleans. Can I tell you, we had something like 8 panels at that conference. And so everywhere you turned, it was Caribbean InTransit, panel number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Plus, we had a launch of one of the journal issues. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. I think one of the keys to that is working with people where they're at, supporting their own interests through the work that you're doing. Because if they can get an organization to back them and what they want to achieve, well, we're all working within more or less the same orbit in terms of Caribbean arts, that kind of thing, academia to some extent, then that drive is there. And when they're ready, you have to maintain constant contact so you catch them when they're ready. I think one of my character traits, one of my Shiro traits, is that I'm very persistent. Some would say stubborn.
I love it. I had a previous guest on, Valerie Grant, who is out of Jamaica, actually, another powerhouse. And she had shared that persistence is a superpower. I just think that it's just amazing to manage and lead this global organization. And so you mentioned the app as the newest thing that you've rolled out as part of the organization, and a feature that I'm sure will expand the reach of the organization. As you look 3-5 years out, like, where do you see the organization going, or where do you envision or hope that the organization could go?
That's a great question. We're really hoping this app will address one of the gaps over the more than decade that I've been working in the arts, is the connectivity between the different elements, right? We need the Caribbean to come together with their project. We need one space where we can all communicate consistently. And so my hope is that if we can get a good body of practitioners and organizations onto this app, that we can then really project outward reach. And so we are reaching out to South Africa. Right now, our call for proposals is one of the guest editors is a South African professor and one is a Trinidadian artist. And so we hope to create those connections and really now expand our footprint in a more significant way into South Africa and other regions. So 5 years down the line, I hope that we can become an organization where we can have some full-time staff and be consistent in our delivery of the work that we're doing and become a little less project-oriented. I love project-oriented because there's that feel of always starting up. And to me, that brings a lot of excitement. That's my personal thing. But I would love to bring more operational people on board so that we can be more consistent in our delivery throughout the year. And that's what the app is meant to automate some of that.
So shifting gears a little bit here in terms of just overall navigating business in this space, right? So you have been an entrepreneur for a long time now. You are now training and coaching and mentoring other new entrepreneurs in this market space that we're in. COVID and the pandemic has shown us that the world is actually a lot smaller than we thought that it was, right? At the end of the day, there's a lot of uncertainty. There are a lot of challenges. There's a lot of upheaval in different parts of the world. And as a global leader, what advice would you give to individuals who are coming into entrepreneurship and who are trying to find their footing in this space where they really just want to do what they're passionate about, but they still have to navigate all of the ins and outs and uncertainty of this marketplace?
So for me, this is again what I teach in my coaching. First of all, I'll start with the network, and different leadership gurus call it different things, the inner circle and so on. I think that inner circle is core. Who you associate with is often who you become. Who you associate with is who you learn from. And if you're not learning the right attitudes, the right frameworks, the right ways forward, then you're going to set yourself up to get something that you don't want to get, right? I talk about the different kinds of personalities that you need to have around you in that inner circle. Someone who you mentor, because mentoring is so important on so many levels. That younger person may be in age, but younger might also be in terms of where they are. Often has their finger on a pulse that you don't have your finger on, right? Or often has a strength that you may not have. And so you can learn from that person. That's what you learn from that person. Then you need to have that really reliable stick to itiveness. You send me this document by this time. And it's not that they're going to beat you on your head if you don't, but their discipline is going to encourage your discipline. And so I outlined, for example, 5 core persons who should be in that inner circle, but not just the core persons or the core rules, but the characteristics of each of those rules, and determining whether this is the right person to fit that role. So that's the first thing I would say is cultivating that inner circle. The second thing I would say is that set your vision beyond what you think you can achieve, and don't let the naysayer restrict that vision. Had I let persons who said, oh, why don't you just become a teacher? That is a secure job. You'll get paid. I might still be a teacher today, but that was not my destiny. That's not what God created me to be. That's not the only thing God created me to be. And so if that vision is in you and you have that inner drive, that compulsion to do something, whatever that thing is, obviously once it's good and has positive impact, you can't let what others say stop you from doing that. You have to find people who are going to support that vision, find the right people who will propel you forward. And again, that comes back to the inner circle. For creative entrepreneurs in the space, having been there, I wouldn't tell you to jump out and leave your job all at once, because that is not for everyone. Some people can do it and some people can endure the hardships, but not everybody can. So if you can maintain some kind of income, give yourself that little cushion so that the distress doesn't hit you too hard. And I could go on, but that would be some of my advice.
I love it. The quote specifically, who you associate with is who you become. I've never heard it in that term. I've heard you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang around with the most. But I don't know, just hearing it in this context is just hitting me, at least personally, a lot differently. So thank you for sharing that. I love the piece around the inner circle. I like to call it the success circle. And that's whether you're in corporate America, whether you're in entrepreneurship, who are those people what is the value that you add to them, as well as what is the value that they add to you. And then the setting your vision beyond what you think you can achieve, that piece is huge. Because I think as entrepreneurs, naturally, right, most of us, right, when we come into entrepreneurship or you're driven by something that is part of your purpose or your passion, the immediate thing is, I want to change the world, right? That's the goal. That's where you start with. And there's a process that we have to go through, and being mindful of not allowing the voices of people who may be well-meaning, right? Because they are trying to protect us, not allowing their fear to penetrate or to affect us in a way where we abandon that desire, that purpose, or that passion that's driving us into entrepreneurship. So thank you for breaking down those 3 core areas that newer entrepreneurs should be conscious of as they're moving into this space and navigating all of the external stuff around them. So with that, I just have a couple last questions for you. I can imagine that you do a lot of reading. So I'm curious, are there any books, or is there one book that you recommend to your students?
One book that I tend to go back to is a really small transformational leadership book by John Maxwell. And it's actually a Christian leadership book that is like a daily devotional, but all the devotionals are also steeped in leadership principles. And because I have, time set aside for devotion, I use that as part of my devotion, and I find it to be a powerful injection into my day. I have a little one, so my reading, unfortunately, is a little limited by motherly duties and so on. But that's one thing that I've been able to continue with. I've recently been reading a book by Carlos Garrido, I think his name is, who has written on visual arts in the Caribbean. His topic and his approach is very similar to what my doctoral thesis was on. I'm tending to read based on the essays that I'm writing and academic publications and so on. So it's varied. I can't say it's just one book.
Thank you. And beyond obviously going to your website, Caribbean InTransit, how can the audience connect with you, reach out to you, learn more about the work that you're doing, and learn more about the app?
So they can download the app from the App Store. It's called the Meeting Place Community, and it will be on Android really soon. We're just finalizing those rollouts. They can email me at caribbeanintransit@gmail.com or the Meeting Place Community @gmail.com.
Awesome. We'll be sure to include that in the show notes as well. So thank you so much, Marielle, for being on here, for sharing your wisdom, and certainly the amazing work that you're doing around the globe. I admire very much the work that you've done in the Caribbean and continue to do to create a space for those who otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity. So thank you for your work. Thank you for your labor. And thank you for allowing the world to share in your passion. Before I let you leave, any final thoughts, advice?
I would say dream big and allow yourself the grace during that process to accomplish your dreams. Don't let others devalue the work that you're doing. Don't let stumbling blocks or unexpected events stop you in your tracks, and cultivate the life that you want. One of the things that I always refer to is a card that someone gave me that says, go confidently in the direction of your dreams, live the life you've imagined. And sometimes even when I'm having a moment, I say, okay, what are you going to do? I'm going to go confidently in the direction of my dreams.
Oh my gosh, I'm writing that down as my new affirmation. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Thank you so much for sharing that, for being on the show. Listeners, please be sure to check out the show notes for more information on how you can connect with her, as well as gain access to the app and the amazing work that Caribbean InTransit is doing. With that, I will see you all next week, or I'll chat with you all next week. Have a great rest of the week. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of She Leads Now. Be sure to join us next week for another transformative discussion to help you grow, develop, and embody the courageous leader you've always been. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get alerts when new episodes drop, and join us for our next Leaders Lounge meetup on Zoom. Details and dates for future sessions are included in the show notes below, so take a look there or head over to sabinegideon.com/lounge to register and hold your spot for the next session. Again, that's sabinegideon.com/lounge to grab your spot. Excited to connect with you all inside the lounge. Talk to you soon.